To truly give you the gift of freedom as you walk along the path of each daily shortcut episode, you'll discover that it's the people who you mastermind with that give you the power to transform your business. You'll take off in your business when you decide to slow down time and connect with other great mentors. When you decide to embrace fully the transformational information from one of my mentors, as we open a new door to a vehicle you can step inside and smile, taking one step and then the other. As we open a new door to a vehicle, as you walk on a stage so we can celebrate you. Pay attention to William Wood in this special episode as he shines a light on the power you have inside so you can immerse yourself in the principles of success, lift your hands in the air, and be free.
Hi, my name is William Wood, creator of the Max Performance Master Course and co-creator of the Lifestyle Profits Academy. I help entrepreneurs take their personal and professional performance to the next level by helping them reach their goals and live their dream lifestyle. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the secrets to creating lasting, powerful influence. In fact, today's topic is such a powerful influence tool that a group of psychologists tried to get these inside secrets to influence banned from being taught to the public because they were afraid that they would be misused. True story. But they were not able to suppress the information. And today, I want to put it into your hands. But only if you promise to use your influence for good. Before I bring you on to the inside of these life-changing influence secrets, put your right hand over your heart. Come on, do it right now. And repeat after me. I will only use this information for good. That's right. Because what you send out comes back to you. Here in just a minute, I'm going to introduce you to a special guest, Christian Westerfeld. In 2015, Christian and I recorded a conversation where we talked about these master secrets to influence. And in just a minute, I'm going to let you inside the conversation that we had. When you apply the influence principles that Christian and I discuss in this insider recording, you will learn how you can deepen your most cherished personal relationships and how you can instantly create more influence in your professional life or business. Some of my clients have even applied these principles in their sales and marketing and have more than doubled their results. Some almost instantly. Applying these principles will automatically increase your personal influence in every area of your life. Are you ready? The topic that we are going to be talking about today is the power of listening. Listening is a lost art, and it holds the key to opening the door to deeper, richer relationships. I know of no more effective tool than listening to create real, lasting influence with your family and your business prospects. The power of deep listening can change your life. Now, when you leave a comment below this post, you will automatically be entered into a contest to win a copy of the book, Just Listen. Discover the secret to get through to absolutely anyone by Mark Goulston, who talks about the power that listening has to influence others. All you need to do to win your free copy of Goulston's book is to post a meaningful comment below immediately after listening to today's episode. One person who leaves a meaningful comment will win a free copy of Just Listen. Discover the secret to get through to absolutely anyone. If you are chosen, we will ship the book directly to your home or business at no cost to you. Now let's dive into the recorded conversation Christian and I had on the power of listening. We recorded this in 2015, and the material is still life transforming today. Well, listening is one of the most important parts of communication. I'm going to make a bold claim. I'm going to say that by the end of today's show, you will not only have tools, but you're going to have ideas that can literally transform every major relationship that you have. If you think about it, in high school, we start learning how to make presentations. We make presentations in front of the class. We learn how to write. We learn how to read critically, but no one ever teaches us how to listen. That would be like sending a football team out onto the playing field and you've only trained the quarterback. You've never trained anybody how to do anything else on the field. It's like nobody's going to block the defense. The receiver doesn't know where to run to most effectively catch the ball, and he's never actually caught a football. And then they're trying to play against these 300-pound giants. It's a game that is doomed to failure.
Right.
And yeah, it is really. And so most of us go our entire lives without any good training in communications. Why study listening? Because in my opinion, listening is the key to rapidly improving the quality and caliber of your communication, and also in really deeply connecting with people. It looks like you got something you want to say, but let me just wrap up with this thought here that, a few years back, I think this was actually back in the mid 90s when they first started doing these studies. They started basically doing the cage fighting equivalent of, or the psychotherapy equivalent of cage fighting, right? So if you think back to the early days of mixed martial arts, you can tell it's two guys running the show and not two women. Like we were talking about shoes or something like that. If we were women, but I just have no idea what to talk about with shoes. So in the early days of mixed martial arts, and I'm a martial artist, and Christian's a martial artist by for years, since I was like 10 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I first started off in Taekwondo, and then I worked my way into karate when I realized the karate people could kick my trash.
I thought you were going to say break bricks with your head or something like
Dude, that. I broke bricks with my hand. Like my right hand, I broke like 3.5 inches of concrete, and I broken bricks, and I also did not break 6 inches of concrete, and just about broke every bone in my arm. That was the most painful thing. That was one of the most painful things that I've ever done. It's actually not that bad if if you go through it, but man, if you don't go through it, and if you hit it wrong, that hurts. So
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, Will, and I'm really even though I enjoy martial arts, I'm like really perplexed by the connection of the early mixed martial arts of
psychotherapy. Now, my disclaimer is I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm a coach. But as a coach, I'm always interested in good change technology. So I read a lot of the literature, and I look at a lot of different change modalities that are out there to find effective modalities to help my clients change. Christian, on the other hand, is a psychotherapist. And right now I know that he just got back from a conference. So he is imagining, maybe two of the nation's top professors, standing in a ring, shirts off, spandex on. Oh, and I can't get the image out of my mind, right? But I think it was back in the 90s, they started to do studies on that were kind of like cage fights for psychotherapists. So if you go back to the early days of martial artists, I was a Taekwondo guy. And when I was a Taekwondo guy, we would say like, oh, well, Taekwondo is so much better than karate. Well, like, how do you know? Well, because we have all these fancy kicks or whatever. And it's not that I'm not criticizing any one art, but like, did anybody really know what art was better? Not really, because nobody was out putting it to the test. So then along comes the advent of the cage fights. And in the cage fights, they said, well, okay, we'll have some, loose rules, make sure nobody's going to die or anything like that. But like, let's just put two people in a ring. And what happens when you put a boxer against a karate guy? And what happens when you put a wrestler against a judo guy? What happens when you do this? And it turned out that in the early days, certain styles did seem to have more success in the ring than others. But over time, what we found is that really it was probably for most fighters, it was a matter of taking the best from several styles and then learning how to mix them together in an effective style. In the early days, the grapplers had a real advantage because if the striker didn't know how to manage on the ground, the wrestler would go in and plop them on their back, and then they didn't know how to fight. right?
Yeah,
And they lost all their advantage. So they kind of did the same thing in the psychotherapy world. What they did is they did all these studies to see if they couldn't tease out which style of psychotherapy was the most effective.
Okay.
And they did this by looking at a number of things, and interestingly enough, they found that there really wasn't one style of psychotherapy that outperformed another. It's interesting, isn't it? Now they did find that there were some therapists that were more effective than other therapists. And the number one predictor of outcomes in these studies was whether or not there was an excellent level of rapport between the therapist and the client. And the level of rapport was the number one predictor for a successful outcome.
Wow.
And so if you think about that, you might be listening to this thinking, well, I'm not a therapist. Well, I'm not a therapist either. I'm a coach, but I'm also a dad, and I'm also a husband, and I'm also a friend, and I'm also someone who attends community events, sometimes attends networking events, and I lead people in groups, and I lead people individually, and my influence really spans at this point over thousands of people. My number one, the way that I look at the data is that my number one ability to influence, which is really what a psychotherapist is doing, starts with rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And the fastest way to gain rapport, in my opinion, begins with listening. And so now we're back to, we've left cage fights and we're back to today's topic. If you find that you're struggling with making a connection with people, it may not be what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It may be the way that you're receiving or the way that you're listening. And interestingly enough, I was just with a guy who trains a lot of salespeople, and he trains salespeople how to sell in a really ethical way. And I know some people have a funny idea about what salespeople do, but he really has a good training curriculum for salespeople, and he trains people how to sell in a really high ethic sort of way. And he said, if I find a sales guy who is not performing, I look at a couple of things. I look if he's out working and things like that. But if he's out working and he's not making sales, if he's actually doing the work of meeting people and everybody's telling him no, and he seems to be talking to the right kinds of people who might be interested in his products or services, he said the number one thing I look at is their listening skills. And he goes, almost always they have terrible listening skills. So listening skills will not only help you in the therapy or a mentoring or a coaching context, it will help you in a business context. It'll help you in a life partnership, whether that's a marriage or a girlfriend, boyfriend. Think about it. What's the number one cause of divorce today?
Oh, it's breakdown in communication.
Yeah, breakdown in communication. Now that breakdown in communication could be over, money, could be over intimacy, could be over resources or child rearing. And what does that really boil down to? Listening, being willing to both give and receive. So in school, we're constantly trained on how to give. We're constantly trained in how to put messages out into the world. And very, very few of us have ever spent any time at all, learning how to listen. And so the timing of this show, I think, is just absolutely critical for all of us, and myself included, because all of us can take our listening skills to the next level.
Well, how I look at listening is that magic happens when listening. And going back to your point that you were making earlier, you're exactly right. I mean, I have spent years and years and years in the educational system. I started in like 4 years old, and then went all the way till I was 19. Then I took a couple of years off, and then I started my undergraduate, then my master's degree, and then really up until just a couple of years ago, I was in a PhD program. And it's really interesting because all throughout that educational process, they teach on the mechanics and the style of speaking, but it's automatically assumed that you know how to listen. Well, in order for you to really speak the right message, you have to know first how to listen, to hear. Because if you're not hearing the needs or the desires of your audience or of your customers, then it doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
Because it's just like a crapshoot. I mean, it's like you might be saying the right thing, but you're probably not. just like what you were referring to, that highly successful business salesperson knowing when the individual's ability to effectively listen. Like I said, that's listening is where the magic happens. I can't tell you how many different clients that I have worked with. I'm meeting with them for a solid 50 minutes. In those 50 minutes, I may have said maybe 60 seconds, 120 seconds worth of anything.
Wow.
And it's a real practice. And so I'm going to take a quick tangent here. Listening is a skill, and you can strengthen that skill through practice, and you need to have effective tools so that you can practice listening. But at the end of the session, I have had hundreds of individuals tell me this, say, Christian, that was an amazing session. This was the most effective session I've ever had. And I'm like, wow, really? I wonder, why is that? And they're like, because I finally feel like I was heard. I was finally listened to. It's really nice, because I just sit there and I go, yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that, right? And
I'm curious. I guess there's like smoke a pipe while you do that,
I have them close their eyes, and then I just, I have a little dry erase marker and I draw pictures on my window.
But seriously, you gave a really interesting metaphor offline right before we got on. You were talking about a mechanic, and what you shared was, and I thought this really impacted me, is like if I brought my car into a mechanic, and without looking at it, without hearing it, the mechanic's like, "Oh, dude, you need a new engine." I'd be like, "What?" Are you sure? Oh yeah, like everybody that drives a Suburban needs a new engine. Everybody, really? How do you know? Well, I don't. It's just like it's a common thing. I just know these things. It's like,
I just drove this off the parking lot.
Right, I just drove it off the lot, man. I was hoping you'd put air in my tire. If the mechanic didn't take time to diagnose the situation, you wouldn't trust the evaluation. And yet, how many of us with our kids try to be a mechanic and fix things before we even really know what's really at the tender core of their hearts and their minds? How many of us with our partners launch right into fixing things before we take time to really just fully hear the other person out? We're like the mechanic that's trying to replace the engine before making a diagnosis. So you've got to take that time, and I just thank you for sharing that. I think that was a beautiful metaphor that you shared. So let's talk about what listening is here for a minute. Listening, in my opinion, really resonates deeply with a couple of words. Listening has to do with, I think, being fully present. Yeah. Listening has to do with receiving. Listening has to do with connecting. And listening also has to do with creating safety. So if you were to ask me, what is listening? I would say listening is the process of becoming totally present, becoming totally aware, of receiving the gift that someone is giving you, and creating an environment of safety so that if somebody really has something to say, they can say it. And I don't know about you, but have you ever been in a situation where you were having a conversation with someone and you really needed to say something, but you didn't feel like you could?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
In those situations.
Yeah. So have I. And I've been in those situations in a variety of different places. I suspect that I've also created that from time to time as I've navigated my relationships. And so, right now I have 3 teenagers. My daughter's birthday is today. The recordings are always delayed a little bit from when we release them, but today is my daughter's birthday. She just turned 14. So I have 3 teenagers right now. I have a 14-year-old, I have a 15-year-old, and I have a 17-year-old. And so with these 3 teens, one of the things that I'm constantly evaluating now is, am I creating an environment of safety where they really, if they had something where they needed to really come and talk? And I mean, gosh, man, teenage years can be years where they really might have something real to talk about, life-changing type stuff. have I created an environment of safety with each of my kids? And if I'm real honest about it, even thinking about it right now, I would say with 2 of my kids, the answer is probably yes. And with 1 of them, the answer is probably no right now. So all of us, I think, can take the time to really evaluate, how good are we doing? This is not an on or off. This is not, oh, the environment's totally safe or it's totally unsafe. I don't think I have an unsafe environment in the house. But, if I were to scale it between 0 and 100, 0 being no safety and 100 being total safety, where is each of those relationships? I'd put 1 at an 80, I'd put 1 at about a 60, and I'd put 1 at about a 30 right now. And so I look at the one that's at a 30 and I go, well, what can I really do? Well, one of the things that I need to do, I think, is I really need to create some more time with that individual. And while I'm with that individual, to also spend more time really in the, am I fully present? Am I fully connected? Am I in a receiving mode so that I can hear it? Am I totally and completely accepting of the individual, regardless of what kind of content may be coming forth? I don't think there's actually, I hope there's nothing major going on, but I look at that as I'm evaluating and I go, gosh, right now, if there was something big to talk about, would the relationship be able to handle it easily? Or would it end up being a really strained, awkward thing because the safety isn't there?
Learning to deeply and sincerely listen has helped me totally revolutionize my life in every dimension. Listening has helped me deepen my personal relationships, and it has helped me serve my customers more effectively, which has led to increased business growth and deeper client satisfaction. And I believe it can help you too. And today, we just covered a portion of what I will be covering on listening over the next few weeks. If you like the training you got today, the best way to make sure that you keep on getting daily motivation and inspiration is to scroll to the bottom of this page and enter your name and best email address. When you do, you will subscribe to the daily show, which is released 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Most days, you'll hear from David Wood, my financial freedom mentor. 1 day a week, you'll hear from me. 5 days a week, you'll get access to more amazing content like you heard today. In fact, you will hear at least 3 more installments where I talk about the power of listening. You will also get several bonuses when you subscribe today, including a free MP3 version of my words training. This 50-minute MP3 training teaches you how to use your words to create influence and reprogram your subconscious mind. Clients have paid me as much as $200 to get this information, and now you're getting it free when you enter your name and email address below. When you scroll down and subscribe to the Daily Show, you'll also get a free PDF of today's message that you can print. Reading this message can be a powerful way to reinforce today's success principles on listening deep into your subconscious mind. You'll also get a free audio download of today's message, which you can listen to again and again to absorb these ideas into your subconscious mind. You'll become more powerful on your path to freedom because you're reinforcing the principles that create lasting success, freedom, and lifestyle, the kind that you really want. I look forward to seeing you again soon, next time. This is William Wood, and I believe in you.